share my screen. Okay. Share. Okay. So I think before we start, so you're seeing my screen now, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So before we move forward, perhaps we can share what are our plans this weekend. I understand that there's not so much to do outside. I mean, uh, and even inside your house. But let's try to answer this one before we proceed. For me, my plans for the weekend, basically, as like you guys, as we transition to a more online environment, I'm currently finishing my executive MBA in Moscow, Russia. So I'm also doing an online learning. Uh, and then hopefully I can proceed with my defense next month. So medyo busy talaga kahit weekends for me. How about you guys? You can share your thoughts about this. Uh, yeah, feel free to you know unmute your head. I mean,
For those the participants, you can type in your response on the chat
yes.
box.
Unfortunately, I can't see lang yung ano natin comments. Ayun.
Sige, I will just read kung may
Correct.
chat. So
Ikaw, Eman,
guys,
what are your plans?
ayan, more meetings. I have more meetings to do on the
Mhm.
weekend. I have a webinar again tomorrow. So yeah, from Sherwin, there's a like attend online seminar. From Elmer, Bantay Bata.
Oh, bantay bata.
So kay Abdullah, planning to write my dissertation proposal. There's also from Joseph, repair and clean the house. From Rosel, going to meet with possible suppliers of face shields. Yun.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think we're really trying to do whatever we can to contribute, no? At the same time, um, we are actually, with the lockdown, we are trying to realize several things na parang nawawala na masyado yung border between weekdays and weekends, no? So, even at 8 p.m., you're still working. So, medyo nagkakaroon ng bagong ano ways of working talaga. So, later on, we'll discuss that further. So, I think, thank you for sharing, guys. No? I appreciate you participating. There are some more activities later on, and I hope you'll enjoy too. Okay. So, as mentioned by Eman, yeah, you can call me Juan. I'm a process specialist. Nabanggit na niya to eh. Pero basically, what I do, tagalinis po ako ng mga basura ng mga kumpanya in terms of mga proseso nila. Yun, simply put, ganun po yung ginagawa ko. No? So, para lang practical. Okay? But yeah, basically, I've been doing business process management and Lean Six Sigma for the past 10 years. And along the way, I learned the pros and cons and ano yung mga areas na pwede pang i-innovate and i-improve in this practice. And one thing is clear, I think it's really about time to make this practice more accessible to more individuals without them leaving their own respective professions. Yun yung advocacy ko. Okay? So I'm here today because, first of all, I would just like to thank you again for your time attending this introductory webinar. And I'm here because I want to share to you some practical content about, we have three agenda for today, the current and future landscape of business process management, the what and why of digitalization, and how to start your process or digital process excellence journey. Okay, so I think we can proceed. So the future of Lean Six Sigma and process management. So nowadays, I mean, recently, everyone are really uncertain of almost everything, and everyone wants to have a glimpse of what the future will look like. Uh, Lean Six Sigma and business process management is not excluded in this feeling. So let's proceed. LSS and BPM will continue to see increasing adoption across sectors. So as you can see here, uh, as we can, I mean, there is an observed increasing adoption even before COVID. For what industries? It's primarily more on the infrastructure, government, financial services sector. With the advent of COVID-19, we observe an increase, I mean, exponential increase in interest to achieve cost efficiency for healthcare, food, and IT-enabled services industries. As we all know, Lean Six Sigma emanated from the manufacturing industry, and as the first adopters, mostly from the manufacturing sectors will observe continued interest in Lean Six Sigma and BPM, especially in these challenging times. Overall, there is an increasing adoption of SMEs, the small and medium enterprise, to gain cost and operational edge, and there is an increased interest to shift BPM solutions demand to software as a service, everything in cloud. Okay. And I would just like to share to you also the current organizational challenges to digitalization. Okay. So every growth opportunity brings challenges that needs to be addressed. And based on Business Process Trends Global Survey conducted just this year, these are the emerging process management issues. I think Anthony raised his hand. I'll try to check if, yeah, Anthony. Uh, for some reason, I cannot see I mean,
Ano daw,
the message.
hi,
Mhm.
Juan. Na-misclick lang daw.
Okay, good. It's all
Okay.
right. Hello, Anthony. Okay, so continuing. So we have observed this patterns and trends in terms of how organization manages their processes. So the first one is actually the need to do incremental and frequent improvements. So what we mean, we are starting to see the value of incremental change, or what we call the agile way of implementing change. In agile, everyone is encouraged to experiment and implement small pieces of process improvement for lighter and more effective implementation. So the second one, the need for enterprise architecture. So also known as process hierarchy, it is a visual scheme of all the work processes happening in the company. Might seem like an, of course, silly requirement, but the truth, however, is a staggering number of companies recently are sailing blind, especially now in this period. It basically keeps the ship afloat. I mean, as with the saying, it is not the ship so much as the skillful sailing that assures the prosperous voyage. Simply put, if we don't know what environment we work with within and outside the organization, most often than not, we'll have some difficulty to improve and manage our processes. So yun naman yung sinasabi nito. The third point is lacking process documentation. This has been the same findings for the past years. This is the first time that BP Trends conducted this survey, and every time respondents from this assessment always say they lack process documentation. Uh, per- Perhaps based on my experience, the issues are mabilis na kasi mag-change yung processes natin ngayon. And at the same time, instead of me documenting it, I'll just do it and get the work done. It can be beneficial in the short run, but in the long run, and in terms of knowledge transfer and the sustainability of the organization, it is actually becoming a bigger concern. Now, especially that the people are trying to work as much as possible remotely. So the need to document and standardize the processes is becoming more significant. Okay. So fourth one, lacking training on personnel about process management. This is actually a byproduct, a domino effect of the lack of process documentation. So if you really don't know what your process is, if not properly documented, expect that you will have difficulty in training your personnel. Not only about process management, but basically on the day-to-day how they do their work. So the fifth one, the need to focus on collaboration and interaction. So especially now that we cannot meet physically, there is really a spike on the challenges to collaborate. So this is actually was this was already forecasted by the companies. Okay, it will become a challenge, and it was just kumbaga propelled by the circumstances today. So another one, the sixth one, high dissatisfaction in executing and monitoring processes. When was the last time that you say you define the activities to get the job done, and then you turn over to your manager supervisor, and then all of a sudden you will be surprised that it was not done, and for some issues or or reason. So it is actually not a new thing. Even large organization businesses encounter this kind of uh, challenge. So another one, second to the last, the need to orchestrate multiple process projects competing for attention. Simply put, when you conduct projects, there is somehow a dynamics that you need to observe as well. How important is your project to the organization? So the more aligned your projects are in the strategic direction and plans, operating plans of the business, the higher chances that your project will get attention. So if you're thinking of improving your process, that is, uh, I mean, functional in nature, meaning you just want to improve your work. Nowadays, it won't work because they see the value in collaborating and looking at processes cross-functionally. Gone are the days that improvements are being implemented in silo. Okay, and lastly, but the most appealing trend that we are seeing right now, and this last challenge is becoming somehow, kumbaga, this is this looks promising. The demand for automation and no-code application. Simply put, you will no longer need IT people to program your requirements so that, whenever you want to digitalize or just automate some of your workflows. We are now entering in an era wherein everyone can actually program. Actually, hindi na program yung term eh. Create or simply develop as a system. So this is actually the most promising direction that we are seeing in the global market now. Okay. So with all these challenges that we just discussed a while ago, we cannot discount the fact that there are day-to-day issues that there is us to want to address those emerging challenges. Okay. So at the end of the day, we go back to focus on these pressing problems in our organizations. Now, of course, poor customer experience, increasing operations cost, cost of poor quality, low employee morale, poor anticipation of risk, rigid processes, still paper heavy, and lastly, penalties due to non-compliance. So as you can see, this can seem, it seems like they are separate issues that needs to be addressed, but actually, they're all interconnected. Let's try this again. If you have rigid processes and your process is very manual, paper heavy, the tendency is you will have a challenge in maintaining the quality of your product or service. Where in effect, it will translate to increasing the operational cost. And when the cost is high, the pressure from the management is becoming stronger. When the pressure from the management is becoming stronger, it now translates to to the downlines, resulting to lower employee morale because lagi na lang silang nape-pressure at nasa-stress at napapagalitan. And with that level of morale, it actually affects the how the frontliners handle the customers. And since they are very much occupied to the pressing issues being brought down to them by the management, the anticipation of risk is starting to fail. And the regulatory requirements is, I mean, we are starting to overlook these regulatory requirements resulting to penalties. So mapapansin natin, pwedeng hiwa-hiwalay siya, but actually it is a cause of another issue. So if you will be doing your analysis, they are actually interconnected. And these are the things that limit us to move forward. As human beings, it is our nature to improve ourselves, to look for ways how to make ourselves better. So we trust that everyone just want to do their work better and everyone just want to enjoy and make the most of what they do. Ang problema, whenever we attempt to improve the processes, we are confronted by disparate old school systems. So medyo pupunta lang sa systems perspective. Um, parang we have a separate system. Kumbaga, if you want to do something, yung sistema ni quality management, iba sa sistema ni compliance. Yung form ni purchasing, kunwari, is iba sa form ni finance. So, with that, we feel not empowered and we just, okay, so that's the standard. I'll just go back to what I'm doing. I think wala din namang sense makipag-collaborate. They have their own standards. You have ours. I think this is it. Okay, so let me go to that in detail. Some actual cases we encountered. These are actually real cases that I experienced, my colleagues experience. I will just I will just not disclose the companies of my colleagues that shared me these things. Some cases that we encountered in terms of waiting time. So nobody wants long processing time. Kunwari sa bangko, ayaw na ayaw mo talaga yan. Yung nag-aantay ka, tapos lagi mo tinitignan yung numero nung susunod, di ba? So from customers' point of view, they just want to make everything fast. Any task that are still manual easily frustrates them. Lalo na sa panahon ngayon. And with the millennials, everyone is starting to find ways how to make the most of their time. Not to mention that the same customers are becoming more intelligent. Isang Google lang yan. Hanap na ng kabilang ibang bangko. Parang gano'n, no? So they can easily transfer to your competitors. Moreover, from business point of view, long processing time means more resources needed to deliver the same level of service to existing customers. If this continues, business margin will surely get thinner in the near future. Also, add the increasing cost of operations. It can be observed that recently, IT costs such as software licensing is already creating a dent in their expense report. Lagi yan. Laging malaki ang allocation sa IT automation and budget, no, without you even understanding the real utilization of these licenses for every individual. So we'll go back to the basic principle of equipment utilization. So whenever you buy an equipment, you want to make sure that you make the most. You ROI what you invested, no? The same is true. Naging digital lang. So yun yung mga realities that we experience. I know one company that bought several licenses. Then, upon assessing, not more than 10% utilization ng bawat user with that system. So, there are opportunities to optimize further the resources. In terms of non-compliance naman, another challenge is to ensure that the set requirements of various government regulations, such as we are all into this recently, data privacy and industry-specific regulations, for example, food safety. Keeping your processes unstandardized may not be a sound practice if you want to avoid penalties with non-compliance. I think I have discussed a bit of this earlier. And ito, interesting. Trying to digitalize. Okay? With all the buzz about digitalization, seldom we hear concerns how to get started with all the technologies we have today. We usually just adapt or perhaps avoid because of long to develop one-time huge IT expenditure requirements of several IT companies. Or maybe people are afraid that they will lose their jobs, so they avoid automation as much as possible. Resistance if they really don't understand what digitalization is. We are really puzzled how to get things started. Thus, we just retract and go back to where we are used to doing. Who can relate? Put a like. Feel free to to share your thoughts. Okay? So, now, the question is, the big question that we will try to answer tonight. How do we really start our digital process excellence journey? So with that, I would like to introduce to you this module, a practical guide to improving and digitizing a process in the disruptive era. So digitalizing. What is digitalization? Okay. It is the use of technology to radically improve reach or performance of enterprise, according to MIT Center for Digital Business. Digitalization have been with us actually for at least for the past 3 decades. 1970s, 80s pa lang, nagdi-digitalize naman na ang mga companies. If we will try to dissect further this definition, we can observe that digitalization is not the protagonist here. Kumbaga, kung nanonood ka ng movie, hindi ito yung bida. It is actually your business, my business, everyone's organization or business, actually the protagonist. What I mean is the interest of the business to expand reach and improve performance with a clear vision. How will digitalization benefit the bottom line? Or meaning, how will it bring more money or profit? And how will it make the lives of the people in the organization easier and more holistic? In this regard, we are actually looking at digitalization as simply as a tool, not taking digitalization in itself. So digitalization is a buzzword, but actually it is just a tool. Okay? So why do we want to digitalize? Okay? Bottom line, customers are becoming more unforgiving. Simplify customer experience and speed up processes, or you lose business. That's it. And as individuals, as customers, we need new capabilities to help in improving processes. We need to be more mobile, intelligent, and synchronized. So even if we are staying at home and not mobile at all, this is somehow contradictory, but let me explain this. Mobility was brought to a greater level. It is ensuring mobility of business activities wherever we are, or what we all know now as work from home or remote working schemes. Another consideration is we want to be more intelligent. We want easy, smarter decisions at our fingertips. The only way to do this is to move from physical, manual to digital. That's the only way to be to enable you to become as I mean smart in decision making. Lastly, we want to be synchronized wherever we are. It just pains us if we already did one report, for example, or we have finished this document and you will have to manually rewrite or redo, if not the whole, a substantial part of it, just because the standards of the other departments perhaps is different from yours. Okay? So now, as you can see the flow of our talk, and since you have now a better background about digitalization, it seems that most of the point discussed leads us to really stepping back and looking at the bigger picture of people and processes. So with such, I will now transition to the discussion to why the need to improve a process. Okay? Si Tiger Woods. May kalaban si Tiger Woods. Si Tim Woods. Have you heard Tim Woods before? I'm not sure if you've heard this acronym before, but it is actually the main culprit. This this guy, we need to find ways to cut him off to improve the process. Okay, so it is actually an acronym that means transport, inventory, motion, waiting, overpricing, overproduction, defects, and skills unutilized. So allow me to talk about this a little further. Transport. For example, you need to physically visit another department to submit your document for their review. Inventory. You already printed the forms, the revised forms, as instructed by your boss. And suddenly, this another department are told that the form is wrong and you need to revise everything. Motion. Searching documents in your stock room. Classic to. Epic yan. Or searching a file in your laptop. Waiting. Not starting the meeting on time. Over processing. Being too creative on your presentation. Then, all of a sudden, your one slide will do. Overproduction. We are used to this kinds of, for example, extra copies just for your filing, personal reference. Or because this department wants a photocopy, not the original one. Defect, encoding same data to different forms or systems. And then lastly, and the most important, skills unutilized. No choice here. At the end of the day, you don't have a choice but to do what is instructed to you, which are most often mechanical tasks than focusing on more important matters in your line of work. So we can name more examples about Team Woods, but I think this will be a good takeaway for tonight for you guys. Remember Team Woods and everything that you do, and try to cut them off. Okay. So next slide. So I go with this quote. I'm sure those who design and approve the activities are the same people who do the activities. Now that we know what to look for in improving the process, based on studies, it is really best to make sure na kung sino yung gumagawa, you need to involve them and empower them to find ways to improve what they're doing and to collaborate to their colleagues. It is primarily because accountability and empowerment can only be achieved if we engage the same people who do the job. In effect, they see higher level of employee morale for organizations doing this approach. So we are now moving from the stage na kung ano inutos si boss, ang gagawin ko, is no longer parang organizations now have discovered a better way to implement improvement in the organizations. So So to do that, this brings us to the third part of this introductory webinar. How can we leverage digital platforms to create a continuous improvement culture? Okay, so going back, so the next question is, how do we do that? I mean, the quote earlier that I said, how to empower the same people who do the job to improve the job. So in the lens of process management, we all visual and static manuals are things of the past. Leveraging on business process management system to make the work clean, alive, and engaging is becoming the new norm. For example, you create you're part of the process. For example, you're a geodetic engineer. You create and update your activities, your process direct to the platform, and then the recipient of your report can comment, add feedback. I mean, add their tools, and together you will see how the process are being executed, analyzed, and changed. In this way, we are reinforcing ownership and collaboration wherever we are. As with a saying, the easier to change, the faster to improve. This is an interesting slide. All of us want to be a specialist, not a typist. So by leveraging on digitalization solutions, we can focus on finding ways to improve efficiency, network effectively by seeing interconnection of processes, identify cost-saving opportunities, self-monitor performance, and address bottlenecks. As we discussed earlier, most often we feel we don't have a choice, or we don't, and not empowered whenever we see opportunities to improve the system. Because of such, we tend to leave the norm. Just do the things we are used to doing, as time will pass anyway, and I'll get my salary anyway. The thing is, it shouldn't be the case. You deserve to be a specialist and you deserve to grow. And to grow your profession, your profession and in your respective careers. You deserve that. And that's what digitalization is doing for us. So we understand that organization have different roles to take, and overall, we achieve this new state of working. We realize the benefits across the organization. May it be your employees, your managers, or owners of the business. There are actually several benefits in digitalizing. So for employees, for example, they can find the right work instruction and save time. You just Google it, sabi nga, instead of coordinating with the head office. Feel safe and confident knowing that they work the right way, and they can easily complete tasks and forms. Hindi na kailangan pumunta sa kabilang department or kailangan mag-submit physically. You can all do this because of digitalization. So for managers, you can connect people across organization around their respective process ownerships. So we are becoming more intelligent on how we coordinate with other departments. Since we can see the interconnection of processes, we can easily assess the impact of your proposed change or your proposed project. So it's really beneficial for managers as well. Another benefit is we make and communicate changes quickly and with clarity. Because, as we all know, everything now we put on the internet, it is being recorded. No? So, gone are the days na nabasa yung document or nawala. So, we can easily backtrack, and it can actually serve as audit logs for auditors. So in that way, we put more clarity in how we communicate. And we only answer questions only once, as most are found in the platform already. So for executives, you're ensured. Ito na yung mga big boss. Kampante ka. The ways of working is being followed. The standard process, the collaboration, empowerment, yan, kampante ka. And ownership can be delegated without losing direction and controls. Gone are the days na we have this trade-off na if you want to control, don't delegate, or if you want to loosen up your control, delegate. No, they actually now coexist through digitalization. And lastly, as business owners and executives, we can avoid micromanagement and get more time to develop the business. So before we end this quick session, uh, I would just like to share with you what will you expect in the full course. So it is entitled The Practical Guide to Improving and Digitalizing Business Process. And basically, with tons of information at our fingertips, we are often confused where to start. If not confused, maybe we are overwhelmed whenever we try searching how to effectively improve and digitalize our businesses. Not to mention all the IT jargons that you will encounter in every attempt to understand things. So in the full course, you will see the deeper why, what, and specific strategies how you can digitalize, where to look for digitalization opportunities, and I will be sharing to you a digitalization roadmap that you can follow. And even before going with the bus of this digitalization thing, how do you first, this time, step by step, I will tell you how you will step by step can improve your process. And this time, the simple, practical, agile, and fast way. So let us together deep dive on this unique topic. Gone are the days that IT software development and business process reengineering are two different worlds. With the introduction of Lean Six Sigma, process innovations, and agile methodology, so we can make that live together. So if you're someone who is practical and wants to just get things done, this full course is for you. So with this webinar, you will no longer be jailed with all the IT jargons you are seeing in the market, and you will be empowered to improve, digitalize, and become self-sustaining. So I hope to see you there. And with that, I thank everyone for your time tonight. So if you have any questions, we can, I think we can discuss some. And if not, you can always reach me at my personal email or at LinkedIn. We can connect at LinkedIn. So with that, I'll turn over the screen to Eman.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Juan.
Okay.
So we're gonna start our open forum. So for
Uh-huh.
our open forum, I would also like to invite two of the young engineers. Wait, I'm just looking for. So we have here Yosh. Yoshiki Korata is currently the president of the Philippine Institute of Industrial Engineers, Young Engineers, and he is the assistant professor 4 in the of Technological Institute of the Philippines. So Yosh, can you also start your camera para makita natin yung ano. Hi Yosh. Ayan. So I'm gonna use that. I'm also inviting at the panel Engineer John Erver Kabiling. So kung si Yosh is from the IE, so Erver is the current chairman of the Young Engineers Institute of Electronic Engineers of the Philippines. Tama ba? ISEP. So yun. So we have Yosh and Erver who will join us in the panel. So to share their
Mm.
experiences. So if you have any
Yes.
questions, so ay, kailangan daw na. Wait lang ah. So hindi pa daw
Permission.
makapag-share si
Uh,
wait. So if you have any questions, so there are questions coming in. So habang inayos ko yung ano natin, tech side. Okay, you can start your video na, Yosh and Ervir. So before pala tayo mag-start, I'm gonna issue a poll. So that's to check from saang industries galing yung mga participants natin. So can you see the poll? So I'll just put it up for 1 minute. So we have our first question. Is it possible to have a copy of the presentation? One. Is it?
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we'll be gonna share it to the attendees.
It will be my
And
pleasure if you can share the content to the other
okay,
colleagues that
thank
you
you.
have.
So here's another question. So any of you can answer how to define and select best fit BPM ERP system with certain degree of uniqueness and dynamic so that it will be current and fit for use over time. So I think
Okay.
that's one of the issues talaga ng company, yung pagpili ng ERP system.
Okay. I think first thing we need to understand first the need. Most often than not, we will be overwhelmed. Ano yung mga offerings in the market, and you will be bombarded with several features that you will actually, I mean, not use. So I think that's the first one. You need to be clear what are your requirements, and then you need to consider also your budget. Na? Kasi not everyone are like San Miguel or uh, or SM. Not everyone can pay millions of dollars to implement, say, Oracle SAP. So I think it boils down to really understanding your requirements and checking realistic budget. No? Sobrang importante niyan. So in the full course, I will explain to you the specifics of that. Na ano yung mga dapat unang titignan when digitalizing. Yan. Explain ko in detail yan late sa full course. But thank you. Thank you for raising that question.
Okay. So Josh Erver, if you have anything to add.
May I add to Sir Juan's answer? I'm a reviewer. Sorry, I don't have my camera now. I'm not actually ready to be seen on the camera. I was just asked for a panel just few minutes while this seminar is doing. So I'm currently working as a solutions architect on a technology company in BGC, and part of my job is the managed services part, which includes process improvement for the customers and clients. So before we come up to any proposal or suggestion on what to propose, what kind of technology do they need, what kind of new process do we need to introduce, tama si Sir Juan, we really need to do the scoping first. That's the very first step in providing what's needed para kay client. Otherwise, you cannot give a full proposal if you don't know what really is the requirement. And sometimes, clients do not know their requirement. Yun ang pinakamahirap. If the client doesn't know what they need, what they want, yun talagang mahirap doon. Kaya it's better na you need to scope. You need to understand yung ano bang ecosystem si client. Sabi nga ni Sir, is it like San Miguel? Is it like SM? How big are they? What are their scope of work and etc. So that's correct. It's the first step. You really need to scope out and then check their budget because there are a lot of constraints. There are a lot of sacrifices you need to do because they don't have enough budget. So sometimes you need to work on what the client has. Hindi mo mabibigay full mong gusto eh. Kasi alam mo ito yung best mo pero si client medyo nagsashock sa pagiging galaan ka sa paglabas ng budget. So di ba? So tama naman, you can only give what they can provide eh. So
actually, John, correct. To add to that, you mentioned, no, totoo yun. Customers usually don't know what they want. That's the reason why I'm advocating this improvement portion of digitalization because it shouldn't be. I mean, bakit nga ba hindi alam ng customers anong gusto nila? So in the full course, I'm going back to that module, you will really see how to ask the right questions, what to look for digitalization requirements. So yung mga ganun, I will share to you how to think so that you will be more equipped in identifying opportunities for improvement through digitalization. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So hope that answers the question. So here's
Mhm.
another one from Catherine. How can we handle the workers? Based on your presentation about low employer morale, which workers are difficult to communicate and always complain? How
Mhm.
to execute?
Yes, that's another aspect that I will also share to you in the full course. But to answer your question now, uh, I actually have a specialized module on change management. We will tackle everything, and I formulated this framework. I call it People Skills Continuum, wherein it will actually boil down to the people skills. No? Ito yung mga bagay na hindi tinuturo sa school, but actually, these are the things that matter most when you are now working. Most often than not, you will encounter this very rough guy who just want to finish his KRA for the year. Tapos he just don't care with the other departments if they will hit their targets or not. I mean, those are the dynamics that we need to face in the organization. So in my change management module, I'll share to you this people skills continuum that will equip you to kill Goliath. No? Sabi nga. So I'll share to you yung mga practical techniques, how to handle resista, I mean, yung mga lagi na lang no-no, yung may sinabi ka lang na idea, ay, nagawa na namin yan, try na namin yan eh. Ay, parang hindi yan mag-work. So yung mga, yung mga ganong situation, we can tackle that in detail.
Mhm.
But, para naman masagot ko yung tanong mo at maging masaya ka tonight, ang keyword that I can give you is humility. No? So it is a big word, but actually, if you will be humble and compassionate and competent enough, just to show what you have to offer on the table, I think that will work. Haluan mo ng onting humility, gagaan yan. Isa lang yon sa mga techniques na I can share to you with that module. Yan.
Okay.
I hope nakatulong.
Okay, so thank you. So yun nga, at sa a change management kasi is a very complex it's a very complex topic and it requires a different siguro in the future we will have a different yun nga, pero we can have the module and also we can also invite other experts to have a more discussion about change management. So 'di ba yung
Yes.
last experto dialogues natin is we discuss about building essential skills and people skills is really one of the essential skills talaga na kailangan na taglay
Yes.
nung bawat engineers ngayon. So hindi lang tayo kailangan technical but also
Correct.
to develop our people
Oo.
skills.
Ang reality lang talaga, maraming bully. Lalo na sa malalaking organization. Marami talaga. So, along the way, I've been there. No? Na-experience ko rin yan. And then along the way, na-discover ko lang how to handle them. So I'll share to you. I'll share to you how
So yun.
to handle those.
Okay. So yun nga, there's a different approach on managing your subordinates, also a different approach on managing your bosses. So yun. So here's another siguro to foundational topic. So how
Sige.
is Lean Six Sigma differ from ISO 9001 2015? So actually, do pagpasok ko sa industry, yun agad ang mga buzzwords na biglang lumabas sa akin. ISO and then Lean Six Sigma. So
Okay.
how is the two different?
Okay. Siguro to answer it simply, ISO, you talk the walk. Lean Six Sigma, you walk the talk. Okay? So let me elaborate. ISO requirement is you need to document, you need to talk, you need to document everything on what you do. Ang problema, most often than not, people take it literally. Dina-document talaga nila up to the paano ko bubuksan yung pinto, paano ko, I mean, there are times we need to strike a balance, no? A balance between functionality and making it institutionalized now. So yun. So that's ISO. Okay? And for Lean Six Sigma, I mentioned about the walk the talk. So most often than not, we will review our policies and procedures documented in our ISO and other similar framework systems. And at times, na-overwhelm na tayo kasi sobrang daming detalye. And standard na to, hindi ko na to pwede galawin, baka may maapektuhan na iba. We are afraid of doing change. That's the purpose of Lean Six Sigma. To make it more comfortable for you to introduce improvement and to make it easier to change. Kasi by following the Lean Six Sigma methodology, imposibleng may ma-overlook in terms of process diagnostics and process analysis. Imposible sa sobrang dami nilang tools that you will get to learn. Minsan pa nga, sobrang nagiging technical na parang nangyayari, ikaw na lang Lean Six Sigma, ikaw na lang mag-ayos lahat. Basta kami dito, day in, pasok, sweldo, uwi. Ikaw na lang, ikaw ang Lean Six Sigma. So yun yung mga realities that I personally would like to somehow improve. No? But basically, to answer your question, ISO, you talk the walk, Lean Six Sigma, you walk the talk. Yeah.
So Yosh, you would like to add?
Okay, so on an academic perspective, just to add lang din with Kuya Juan's answer with that, when we talk about Lean Six Sigma, it's a framework on how would you do the improvement, while ISO is more on the standard that we follow. ISO 9001 2015 actually is yun nga po, di ba? International Organization for Standardization. It's a quality management system na kung saan yung pinagkaiba, just to add na lang din, yung pinagkaiba ng 2015 version from the 2009 2008 version is ini-incorporate na natin dito yung risk management dun sa improvement na ginagawa natin when it comes to standardizing our processes.
Okay, so hope that answers the question from Elmer. So we have here so we have I think 2 more questions. First is from Abdullah. What are the emerging barriers in digitalization, digital process improvement? How do we manage them given that we are also working in a digital mediated environment?
Okay. I think I can refer to the slide that I showed earlier. 2 things yan. Tao tsaka pera. Yun ang mga practical na barrier mo. Yung tao, kung usually kasi government employees, I'm talking about to a government perspective because I've been helping government organizations. Usually they're afraid to digitalize because of losing their work. But actually, ang reality, digitalization will bring the best from them. Sabi nga, di ba? Hindi trabaho ng digitalization matanggal ng tao. It is just a byproduct, but look at it this way. Hindi ka magtatanggal ng tao. You will just avoid unnecessary additional expenditure on human resources if you make your process simple and efficient. Tama? So, in that way, you're doing them a favor. Kasi yung mga tao na dapat i-hire mo para lang mag-encode ng customer detail dahil hindi nag-interface yung isang system to another, they will be unburdened of that pain. I've done that sa bank. Ang daming nagpapasalamat kung in-automate namin yan kasi they can now focus on managing and looking at ano yung mga pwedeng they're becoming more predictive in their line of work. So I think that's another perspective that we can look at, no? In terms of tao. In terms of pera, ano lang yan? Kung hindi na budgetan or hindi nakita yung talaga savings, and it really just won't work. So I think doon papasok yung feasibility study. Sobrang importante ng feasibility study, no?
Okay.
Ayan.
So I think Ervir will also have to add kasi siya yung medyo nangunguna dyan sa pag-digitalize ng mga processes ng mga offices.
And actually, I couldn't agree more sa sagot ni Sir Juan. That's correct. It's always people and money, of course. And based on experience kasi, it's always about yung culture nung client mo or nung pagsisilbihan mo eh. Kasi if they are not embracing yung change, yung digitalization, they are afraid of some companies kasi, I don't want to name, but based on experience, some company like some government agencies and some banks are really afraid of digitalization kasi they don't understand the technology and they don't want to embrace the technology because they're afraid of change. Na baka magbago yung buong culture nila, magbago yung ginagawa nila, mawalan sila ng trabaho like what Sir Juan said. So hindi nila clearly alam yung technology, and maybe that's the reason why that's one big barrier on digitalization and process improvement, because some companies are not embracing yung change, and then they don't want to see yung benefits on that one. So it's up to those people who really know the technology. Tama yun, you need to do feasibility studies, you need to at least someone from the company needs to do research on what processes and digitalization tools or technology that they need. Because kung walang mag-i-initiate internally on the company, on the client side, wala, mahirap talagang i-embrace. And of course, kailangan properly noted yung cost, yung budget. Kasi this, minsan ayaw nilang i-cost kasi mahal yan. Kasi magbibili ka ng ganito, mag-i-introduce ka ng ganito. Pero in the long run kasi, hindi nila agad naiisip na ano ba yung benefits nito on our client, on our company, ano bang changes na madudulot nito. So I think to address those barriers, it's really about explaining, yung talagang ipapa-realize mo sa kanila na you need to digitalize, you need to improve your processes, else mapag-iiwanan kayo ng panahon.
Makes sense. Ayos.
Josh, do you have something to add? Wala na. Okay. So I think this is one from Marlo. I think this is a follow-up dun sa question about ERP. Kaya lang, pero medyo confused lang ako sa, while all prerequisite requirements in the selection has been considered, the perspective is focusing on long-term and lean-ready ERP system.
Okay. If I got the question correctly, parang most often than not, naano ko yan eh, parang na-encounter ko rin yan eh. If they're looking for an ERP system, gusto nila yung pang long term na, yung pang forever, yung bibili na ako ng sobrang dami para mura, na lisensya. Tapos, bilhin ko na lahat ng features para sulit. No? Mga ano yun eh, marketing strategies ng IT companies eh. Okay. Tapos, mag-i-spend na lang ng 50 million para para isang bilihan na lang. Tapos only to find out, wala pala akong data na ipupull doon. Okay, so to answer the question, doon papasok yung agile methodology. I mean, yung principle of being agile, no? Gone are the days, sample tayo, practical. Gcash. Hindi, ito muna, yung mas simple. Gmail. Napansin nyo ba, may bago ng button doon sa ilalim ng Gmail? Google Meets, nag-integrate na yung dalawang platform. Kung ang mindset nila bibili pa rin ako nung system na I will use. I will invest heavily, bibili ako ng system that will be functional for the next 10 to 25 years. Hindi na po ganun ang atake kasi most often than not, ang lifespan ng isang system 3 to 5 years. Maganda na yan kung abot yan ng 10 years. Pero more often than not, marami pang innovation na madidiscover along the way. But the principle is, we need to be agile, no? Agile and resilient in our systems. That's why, well, ikakwento ko to dapat sa full course, but since you want to go deeper already, nauuso yung software as a service, data as a service, infrastructure as a service. Lahat po ngayon, paupahan na lang. instead na bibili ka ng mansyon, bumili ka na lang ng, mangupahan ka na lang. Kasi hindi mo alam, for the next 3 years, lilipat ka na pala ng ibang bansa. I'm just trying to create an analogy on how things are going in the technology industry, no? Ang uso po ngayon, mangungupahan ka na lang. Tapos, gone are the days na bibili ka ng sarili. Anyway, I will discuss this further do sa full course about digitalization. But yeah, to answer your question, papunta na po doon. Yan. Okay.
So ang chat nga dito ni Ervier, everything is a service. So ganun na ngayon yung business model ngayon ng ng iba't ibang industries.
Pati nga data ngayon, pinapaupahan na eh.
Okay. So I think we have no more. Pero ako, meron akong question.
Yes, boss. Sorry.
About robotic process automation. So how is robotic process automation can be used for process improvement?
Well, I'll discuss that in the digitalization roadmap, but yeah, it is a quick fix. It's a patching solution. Reason why, balik ako sa example ko kanina, yung mga empleyadong nag-encode ng customer details, mano-mano, dahil ayaw mag-integrate ng bank system sa front-end application. Instead, na mag-introduce ako ng IT service provider that will find the solution to integrate the two. And it will take me 2 to 3 years to do that. RPA ko na lang muna yan. Yung robot na yung titingin, kakopy, paste sa kabilang system. So, sa mga ganong situation, RPA will be very
so parang lower level na parang gano'n.
Automation. But, ang promising sa RPA, kwento ko to dapat sa full course. Pero dahil tanong mo na, ang practical sa RPA, nagkakaroon po ng lag lahat ngayon. Anything na naka-lag, you can analyze. And everything na you can analyze, you can improve. So, nandun yung opportunity. Okay.
So, nasa pa rin, importance ng data. So, nasa data-centric talaga.
Correct. And then more than that, importance on how you can see, how you will look at the data, no? If you know what to ask, yun ang pinaka-importante. Kasi ang dami na nating data ngayon eh. Bigyan lang kita ng isang spreadsheet. Ang dami mo nang pwedeng ma-discover. Yung mga emerging markets. Yeah? So, sobrang importante talaga nung critical thinking skills. Yan. Sobrang importante na talaga nun.
Okay. So I think ito na yung last question ko talaga to. Last question for tonight. So for engineers, so what would be your advice na parang anong skills pa yung kailangan i-develop na you think would be very beneficial across all industries?
Balik ako doon sa that's one, the critical thinking skills. Sobrang importante nun. And ito, medyo iko-contradict ko lang sinabi ko. Yung going back to the basics, no? The ability to see quickly ano yung practical meaning of all these things happening. Kasi kapag mas mabilis yung ma-comprehend yun, mas mabilis ka makakapag mas mabilis ma-facilitate yung decision making mo. So just don't forget to be not so techy about everything. Yun. Sobrang importante nun. Lalo na ngayon, dati, SAP, Oracle lang eh. Tapos, lalagay mo sa resume mo, benta ka na eh. Ngayon, ano yung HubSpot? Ano yung ganito? Ano yung ganyan? And actually, pagandahan lang ng title, pero the same principle. You would just like to understand how the market works. And hindi naman digitalization yan eh. It's how yung thought process. Yun ang mas importante. So, yun. So, going back to the full course, yun yung mga expect na makuha nyo. Yung thought process, yung mga ganyang bagay. Yes.
How about Yosh? Same question. Sa last words.
Okay, sir. I think in addition with critical thinking skills, I think it's also essential for us engineers to have the presentation skills. Kasi
Yeah, yeah.
isa sa mga factors sa atin is we know technically,
Totoo.
but we cannot express it for people to understand us. So I think yun yung mahalaga na dapat i-ano din natin, i-nurture natin, lalong-lalo na for us na nag-work sa industry. And siguro last na lang po, this is with my students din. Nawawala din kasi sa mga engineers. Napansin ko sa mga students na ng engineering, yung common sense. Kasi sometimes we try to think things as critical as it is. Yung sobrang lawak na nung nakikita natin, pero hindi tayo pumupunta dun sa basic nga. Katulad ng sabi ni Sir Juan kanina, yung basics ng lahat na ginagawa nating complicated yung mga bagay na dapat na kaya naman pala siyang isolve ng simpleng bagay lang.
Yes, exactly. Hi. alam ba, just quick story lang, no? We are, for a time, parang problematic talaga kami sa mga service delivery. So this just a one process, but basically, only to find out if medyo nawawala yung common sense, yung pala yung mga sinaservicean na station, losing money, so double whammy pa. So naging recommendation, just close it. And with that, I actually easily introduce a 20 million savings. This past life ko na.
So, yun. Ervier?
Okay, nasabi na nilang dalawa actually. Pero what I can add up to that, of course, you're an engineer, you should always be innovative. You need to always think outside the box kasi the problems that we are trying to solve is not always similar to the previous problems that we solved. Parang the solutions are not like one size fits all. So sometimes you need to understand further, you need to not only refer to the previous problem, but include innovation, something unique to the problem para makuha mo rin yung value proposition on solving that problem. So I think being innovative, these days, maraming mga estudyante na sobrang innovative naman na din mag-isip. But sometimes it's different yung approach kapag nasa industry ka over the school. But we need to acquire innovative and outside of the box thinking always.